Hello, Lone Mountain Land. My name's Connor Reed, and my colleague Connor Chrisman, who will be joining us later, will be going over the pestle analysis while I go over why you would be a fantastic fit to join the international market game with Lesotho. So, why Lesotho? And why now of all times? Well, it is a perfect time to start looking outwards rather than inwards. As of right now, with the trade tariffs going in, it is a concerning time for anyone to be doing anything in America. But if you were to instead put up a resort, as you are famous for doing, or residential, as you have continuously done so, you could bring in individuals, investors, especially to a country like Lesotho, who is dying for people to come help and build up their infrastructure. Lesotho has gorgeous countryside, perfect views for any resort building that you wish to put up, with their mountainous terrain, perfect conditions for what you are used to constructing in. And the populace would love to have you. The extra income to build up their infrastructure, foreign investors coming in, sharing the culture, bringing their culture out, it'd be a fantastic way to really expand and become more with the world economy and to really see Lone Mountain Land's future soar. Now we're moving on to my colleague Connor Chrisman's pestle analysis.
For our company, entry into Lesotho would present very few political or economic barriers. So South Africa does have an outsized influence over Lesotho. However, any economic development would have a benefit on South Africa as well. So South Africa and the local politicians likely have very few political reasons to not support any sort of project or entry, nor economic reasons. Socially, Lesotho is a very rural country. There are still very many rural indigenous groups that may have some objections. However, those can definitely be mitigated through the work through the design process that can help mitigate those issues. Technologically, it is a very rural country. However, they have seen recent influxes in internet access, especially in rural regions over the recent years. But with construction, we are not selling a product online. That would prevent very few difficulties into actually entering Lesotho. Legally, Lesotho does have two separate legal systems. One covering contract law and businesses. That is a very Western influenced country, especially having formerly been a British colony. So, based off that, legally, everything would be very similar to the West, or at least in Europe. So, legally, very few things to consider when entering, especially because property rights and such are through a more Western system versus the indigenous system. Environmentally is where we would present some difficulty. With Lesotho, they are a very rural country. They have very strict environmental laws. Additionally, Lesotho is one of the largest water exporters to the country of South Africa. So there are some heavy influences from South Africa on environmental issues within Lesotho, but with that, as long as we are being careful with our entry strategy, focusing on environmental design, we can mitigate those issues and prevent any sort of environmental blockages from entering.